About 2 years ago, I experienced one of the most crazy weekends in my life, here in San Francisco. 300 people came together to hack on my genome, trying to find a solution to one of my tumors. I grew up in the Netherlands, and for as long as I can remember, I have been fascinated by problems. For some people, problems may feel daunting or negative. But for me, they always provided a starting point to build something and an inspiration. It turns out it's even part of my family name. My name, Faber, stems from man the toolmaker. And the fun fact, but this is a family shield, and it's represented by a cement shovel. When I was in high school, I got obsessed with the internet. I taught myself how to code and ended up starting my first company to solve problems from other companies using software. After my high school, I decided to study architecture. And I had a really great time, but I got frustrated in my final year. And the reason was I couldn't work on the problem that I cared most about. Also, the university was really separated in different disciplines, and that was not the way my mind worked. So I ended up starting a new graduation lab called Explore Lab, where students could use their passion and their fascination as a starting point. For many, it became the starting point of their career, and the lab still exists, and it delivered over 250 inspiring projects. After my graduation, I continued on my entrepreneurial journey and started different companies and projects. One of them, we were trying to solve the problem of disconnection. I had felt the rise of the internet and the mobile phones actually hadn't helped much, making me feel closer and more vulnerable to the people I cared about. This company got picked up in Silicon Valley. And after Ashton Kutcher came on board, we decided to move the company here to San Francisco. It was a childhood dream coming true, and I was excited. I had the time of my life. I was thriving. I think Silicon Valley is one of the best places to work on big ideas and get support for it. But that same year, another problem hit me, and it was a problem of a different kind. I started losing my hearing on the left side. And one day, I walked in the doctor's office, and I looked at his monitor and saw this picture. It's a picture of my brain with a tumor inside. The problem was about to get worse because they told me I had another tumor on my other hearing nerve and one in my spine. I was diagnosed with a rare genetic condition called NF2, and people with NF2, they are at risk for losing their hearing, their eyesight, and potentially their mobility. It was really one of the scariest things I've ever experienced. A bit later, we decided to remove the tumor to prevent further damage. And also, going through a surgery like this makes you feel extremely vulnerable. It was a 12-hour procedure, and it doesn't come without risks. But very quickly, I went back into my usual problem-solving mode. And I started wondering, why is there no treatment for this? And I was very curious about it. I started writing online about how I felt about things. When I was diagnosed, they told me only 1 in 40,000 people had my condition. It was very rare. And this makes you feel isolated And also, it makes you think, well, maybe that's the reason why there is no treatment. But as it turns out, rare diseases are actually very common. It's counterintuitive, but 1 in 10 people have a rare disease, and half of them are kids. To put this further into context, every condition, there are 7,000 rare diseases, and every condition is represented by a dot on the screen. Only 5% of them have a treatment available, and those are the blue dots. So the vast majority does not have a treatment. We're talking about a really big problem. As I was trying to get more intimate with this problem, as architects and trained designers do, I started talking to hundreds of people, both researchers, doctors, patients, people in pharma that are actually developing drugs. And I realized, well, this problem wasn't going to be solved automatically. It was because people would do it. And maybe I had some of those people on the phone. Even if we have the technology as a human species to solve a lot of these problems, it doesn't mean that the solution is automatically available to us in our hands. There is a really big gap between what's technically possible and what we have available. And unfortunately, we are not always incentivized to solve those problems. But as patients, or people close to patients, it is likely that you care more about this problem than anyone else. And this is my message to you today. I believe patients need to be the driving force behind the development of their treatments, and not just be consumers. There are many things you can do as a patient, and to give a few examples, it's important that you make other people aware of your problem and raise awareness. It's important that you raise funding so researchers can dig into your disease and understand it better. Or maybe you even want to go into research yourself. As a new patient, one of the first things I had to do was find a doctor that knew exactly about my condition. And I ended up finding this man who had a few decades of experience with exactly my tumor type. I consider ourselves friends, but he's also the man that ended up drilling a hole in my head. One day, I had Dr. Brackman on the phone after a dream I had about a surgical tool that could help to remove my tumor. I was a bit shy to share this with him, because who was I to know about this? But he told me that the founder of their clinic actually came up with a tool like that a few decades ago. So really that taught me not to be shy to share my ideas, because maybe some of them are not so stupid. There is always something you can do. You just need to let your curiosity be your guide. With a friend of mine, Mo, here on the photo, standing next to his sequencing device, we came up with the idea to kind of take the tissue that was removed from the surgery and convert it into computer-readable data, basically sequencing the DNA. And what if we could find something there that indicated I could benefit from a drug that was already on the market for something else? In rare disease, this is often the fastest way to get a treatment. We ended up finding something that's on the market for breast cancer. And I started taking that drug about a year ago. It helped me to stabilize the tumor growth and buy me time. But I wasn't going to stop there, because I knew Silicon Valley is full of smart people that have no idea about this problem, nor the data to work on it. And with the research community local to here, we ended up starting an event that led to that crazy weekend, where 300 people started hacking on my genomic data. And the benefit of this wasn't only for me. It's also about my disease and potentially finding new ways to look at these types of data and help potentially many other rare diseases. One of the most inspiring things to me was that it was multidisciplinary, and people, computer engineers and scientists were sitting in the same room. And really, there are so many low-hanging fruit that you can discover when you put people together, just like in the Explore Lab. To maximize research impact, I decided I wanted to work on things that make it easier for other people to work on my disease and focus on that. I had my data on a hard drive, and that empowered me to share it with all these scientists. But the reality is most medical data is locked up in silos, research institutes and hospitals. But I realized patients actually have the key to unlock that information. And this led to a new idea. I started another company to help patients release that data and share it with many different research groups. And I knew this problem needed a structural solution for all rare disease. My disease was too small to build the infrastructure around it. But if you make the problem big, other doors open, and this opportunity was created. If we ever solve problems like these, diseases like these, it's not going to be by the merit of one person finding the solution. Decades of work, lots of people need to be involved. I was talking to someone from Disney a while ago, and he told me how we loved the single hero story, like the Superman that saves the world all by himself. I think that story is not realistic, but it can also be in the way for good collaboration. So we need to move to a multi-hero or no-hero story instead. I'm from the Netherlands, and we've been fighting a big problem for centuries: the ocean. It turns out 60% of our country currently is under the sea level, and we have successfully kept our feet dry by vast-scale collaboration. And this type of collaboration, I think, is even part of our political system. It's deeply embedded in our culture. Every day, I learn something new about human biology. And all I know is that it's crazy complex, and we only scratch the surface of understanding it completely. Well, if we are going to be successful, we need a lot of experiments and a lot of failures. But if we manage to share better what we do, where we failed, and what we learned, we have a better chance to all succeed. Every time I meet another patient, often a lot younger than me, some of them very severely impacted, I get a reminder of why I do this work. And even if we are working on a solution, let us remember why we do it and to always stay in service of the problem we are trying to solve. I, right now, started working on a few new projects and ideas to accelerate treatments for rare disease. But I also try to live my life. And I understood, getting this diagnosis, losing my hearing on the left side, life is vulnerable. And in the face of losing my hearing, I realized I always wanted to sing. And I started doing that. I wish I could communicate this experience to an earlier version of myself. Because if there's something you want to do, now is always a good time. Because one day, we will all be patients. And if it's not you, if you're the lucky one, it might be someone close to you. This is a problem that concerns us all. But I believe with patience as the driving force, behind the development of their own treatment, we may find a solution and make it real. And what if one day we can live in a world without human suffering from medical illness, not leaving a single person behind? Thank you.